Hello, I'm Luke, the Hard Times guy. And today I want to wrap up a little series I had about auction nemesis. Today I'm going to talk to you about Travis Stewart. I think the first thing I want to do is define nemesis again. Nemesis is someone who is your opponent, your competitor for the same thing. And generally there's someone who you've had these competitions with and they have, for the most part, won the contest. Doesn't mean they're your enemy, doesn't mean they're your adversary. It means they like the same things you like. They compete with you for those things, and most of the time they win. So that's the kind of situation I'm talking about. And all these people in these series were well-respected opponents of mine. In some cases, I've already told you in other videos, they were my friends. But in all cases, I had never considered one an enemy, but rather someone who wanted what I wanted, and most of the time they got what they wanted. Travis Stewart was one of these people. Travis was one of those guys that came to Bedford from Malvern, Arkansas. They were referred to in the plant as Arkies. The Arkies, the ones that came from Malvern. And I knew several of those people there in the piston department. Jim Prince, his son Jimmy and his daughter Mary Prince. Buddy Stevens, Andy Kate, Lester Hickerson. Lester Hickerson was my boss. All these people came to Bedford from Malvern, Arkansas, and all of them were fine, fine people. You just couldn't ask to meet better folks than these people I've just mentioned. I might add to that list, I think Forrest Triplett and Charlie Ray were also a part of that group that came to Bedford from Malvern, Arkansas. But Travis was one. Travis was one of the people that came to Bedford from Malvern. There again, another fine gentleman. And Travis had a daughter named Vicky, worked upstairs. I worked with her for a while. And Travis's first wife died, and later on he had a girlfriend. I don't know whether they ever got married or not. I think maybe they did after a time. She was also in the antique business and was one of my nemesis. I can't remember what her name was, but she probably was more responsible for Travis getting in my way at auctions than Travis was. But Travis liked a lot of the same kind of things I did, especially when it came to furniture. And two times, the first time that he got in my way in a significant manner was with Aunt Colleen's pie safe, the one now known as Grandma Betty's pie safe. The one that's a Bedford pie safe. And when I bought that at Aunt Colleen's auction, Travis was the guy who made me pay what I had to pay. Someone else may have done it. Becky Jenkins was in that contest too, and she took it up to about $950 before she slowed down, and she just may have gotten back in if Travis hadn't been so persistent on causing me to have to pay more for Aunt Colleen's pie safe. But Becky got out about $950, and Travis took me all the way to, I know, at least $1350, and I think it's more than that, but Betty thinks maybe it wasn't. So I'm not going to say exactly what I had to pay for Aunt Colleen's pie safe. I'm just going to tell you that I had to pay that because of Travis Stewart bidding against me. The other situation where Travis Stewart bid against me that I'm going to talk about today, and there were many situations where Travis bid against me and got what I wanted. I couldn't get it because he paid more for it than I would. But the other one was an old country store counter. These usually were in the form of almost like a bar, and probably had a wall behind them like a back bar that was full of shelves. This particular one was probably 8 feet long, maybe a little longer. I don't remember whether it turned a corner and was L-shaped or not. I kind of think it did. But it came from the Owensburg store, Owensburg, Indiana, the old general store there. That's where it first sold, and Travis was in my way. Or that's where I first saw it sell. The significance of that is that store was Mr. Lehman's store. And that was Mr. Lehman's store counter. Very ornate, mid to late 1800s old, fantastic old blue and white paint on it. And out of Mr. Lehman's store. Who in the heck, you say, was Mr. Lehman? Well, Mr. Lehman, first of all, was the gentleman that owned, back in the day, the store in Owensburg, Indiana. My great-grandmother was Toki Hudson. And she first married, her name was Hudson because she first married a man, a grocer, named Ollie Hudson. And they owned a store in the North End in Bedford, Indiana. This is a picture of a plate. This plate was a promotional item in a grocery store in the early 1900s, a store that belonged to my great-grandparents, Ollie and Toki Hudson. Mother came across this plate somewhere, and she managed to keep it in her possession for her entire life. And after she was gone, we were going through some things and found this plate in a box full of things that Mother had boxed away and kept, and Shannon rescued it. It's a promotional plate used as a giveaway in their grocery store. After Shannon got the plate, she tried to find out more about it, and she took a picture of it and posted it on Facebook. And I've also included here some information that a lady shared about the grocery store and her knowledge of it in response to Shannon's inquiry on Facebook.
Swim with the swans and believe that upon some glorious dawn, love will find you.
But Ollie died at a relatively young age, and Grandma Toki married again. She married a storekeeper from Owensburg, and his name was Mr. Lehman. I could probably look in some of the genealogy stuff that I have from Aunt Colleen and find out what Mr. Lehman's name, his first name was, but I'm not going to. I don't know what his name was. I never heard him called anything but Mr. Lehman in stories told about him. From my mother, from my Aunt Colleen, from anyone in the family who was familiar with Owensburg and the Owensburg store and was familiar with Mr. Lehman was called Mr. Lehman. And he was called that in the same way that people in the South call somebody Mr. something. Like people from the Baptist church in near Lake City, Arkansas, that called my Uncle Marvin Mr. Smith. Like the people from the sheriff's department or the people from the police department in Jonesboro called my Uncle Wesley Mr. Mooneyham. They said it with a great deal of respect. They were just, when they said Mr. Lehman, it just reeked with, we have a great deal of respect for this man. Mr. Lehman. This store counter came from Mr. Lehman's store, and I tried to buy it at the auction at the Owensburg store back, I don't know, late 1980s, early 1990s. I'm not sure exactly when it was, but I tried to buy that store counter. Travis Stewart got in my way, and Travis Stewart bought the thing. And I had what I like to refer to as buyer's remorse. And buyer's remorse is a two-way street. Sometimes you can have remorse over buying something because you wished you hadn't bought it. But in this case, it was one of those deals where I wished I had bought that thing. I wished I'd went ahead and paid whatever it took to buy it that day at that auction when Travis Stewart bought it. It would be an absolutely fantastic thing for this room. It could sit right there and all our meals could be, served on it, just like what's there now. Mr. Lehman's store counter would have been a way cooler thing than either one of those pieces, even though I like both of those. Mr. Lehman's store counter. But I didn't buy it. Travis Stewart bought it. After I decided I should have bought it and wanted to buy it, I went to Travis and I said, Travis, that store counter that you bought up there at Owensburg, I said, I should have went ahead and bid on that. And he said, wasn't done you no good. I was going to buy it. I said, well, I wished I'd have tried to find out whether it had done me any good or not because, and I explained to him what relationship that store and that store counter had to me and my family and the importance that it had. And I said, I'd like to buy it now. Would you put a price on it? He said, I can. I've already put it in a Robinson's auction. I'm obligated to sell it there. But he said, you go to that auction week from Wednesday, you'll see it again. I said, I will be there. And I will leave with that Mr. Lehman's store counter. Yeah, back in those days. And when I said that, I meant it. I intended to go there and just buy that thing, whatever it took. I think Travis paid $350 for it, and I thought, a little bit more, would have bought it, should have bought it. I should have paid a little bit more, but I'll pay up to $500 probably for that thing. So I know I'm going to get it the next time because it's not going to bring that much at the Robinson auction at the Armory. Wrong. And there were two other of my nemesis at the Robinson auction at the Armory when Travis Stewart sold Mr. Lehman's store counter again. One of them, and I don't know whether he ever got involved in the bidding. I know he liked the thing. I know he wanted to buy it. He and I talked about it before the sale, and I told him I was going to try to buy it, was Ralph Seabolt. And I told him, I said, Ralph, I really want that thing. He said, well, Linda and I, we really like it too, and I'm going to try to buy it. I said, well, all right, but you're just going to be getting in my way. I intend to own it. And I don't think I'm not sure whether he ever even got to bid on it because Doug Jenkins was there and Doug wanted it too. Well, long story short, I bid way past my $500 that I thought was going to buy that thing, and I still couldn't buy it. I had to let Doug have it again. And it was Doug's kind of thing. He loves that old country store stuff. He owns 2 old country stores. I figured that thing would go down to his country store and sit down in his country store and spend the rest of his life there, but it didn't. He found somebody that he could sell it for more than he paid for it that day, and he paid quite a bit for it, way more than I thought it was worth, way more than I was even willing to pay for it given the history that it had with my family. Doug bought it, and he sold it, and I know he sold it because I had buyer's remorse again. After a few years, I thought, Doug's probably still got that thing, and now I'm just, I've got more money than I used to have. I've got less sense than I used to have. I don't want to resell it. It doesn't matter if I pay too much for it. I'm going to go try to buy that thing from Doug, but when I went to try to buy it from him, he said, no, I sold that Luke a long time ago. He said, you should have bought it over to Armory that day. So twice I had buyer's remorse for not buying that. And I think that's enough. I think I'm going to end this video with that. Travis Stewart was my nemesis. You already knew Doug Jenkins has been my nemesis my whole life. But that's one. I'm pretty sure I could have bought that thing at Owensburg when Travis bought it the first time if I'd have bid just a little bit more. And I've always regretted not buying it. Mr. Lehman's store counter from the Owensburg store. I'm a hard times guy. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a nice day.